What does it mean to take rap music and the culture seriously in a place like Trinidad and Tobago, where it's not always center stage? In this episode of Well, That's Interesting podcast, I sit with Kirt Carmona, a Trinidad-based rapper who's not chasing hype but building his craft. We talk about discipline behind the skills, writing with intention, and the mindset it takes to earn respect in a space that doesn't automatically hand it to you. This isn't about trends or viral moments. It's about longevity, authenticity, and proving yourself through the work. Let's get into it. Welcome back to another episode of Well, That's Interesting podcast, everyone. My guest tonight is Kirt Carmona, a local rap artist who goes by the stage name Krazy Kurtastrophy. I've worked with Kirt for some years and I was not aware of what he does in his private life because he likes to keep both worlds separate, and I'm sure he will explain why later on. Now, I was very curious and intrigued by his skills as a rap artist, and I have him here tonight to talk about how he got involved in such an art form. Welcome, Kirt.
First of all, thanks for having me. To answer that question, I'll have to go way back in time. My cousin used to frequent the States a lot. And when he came back from the States, he used to always bring hip hop tapes, like rap tapes and stuff. And for those in Gen Z and the new generation might know about cassettes, right? So he used to bring a lot of cassettes back. And one of those cassettes was an album from a group called Das Effects. And they had a really kind of unique style. And we were intrigued by that. So we kind of started to mimic their style and used to learn some of the lyrics and just make fun with that particular album. And fast forward a little bit, that continued to happen with my cousin frequenting the States, and it generated our interest in hip hop. So there was this show back in the day called Party Time. I don't know if you can recall that.
I do, I
Right.
do.
So my cousin at the time had written a song, and he had a schoolmate that he wrote the lyrics for both of them. So he decided to take part in that competition. So they went to do an audition because you have to audition in order to go on to the show. And they didn't make it. So my cousin he was kind of disappointed, and he came to us and he was explaining the scenario and whatnot. And the auditions were held for a particular period, right? So he decided to give it another shot, but instead he gave us the lyrics to our song to recite. And when I say us, I'm talking about myself and my older brother. So he gave us the song to learn and stuff. And then we went to try to audition again. Now the auditions were closed off, but the producer of the show at the time gave us a shot because we was real like, hey, give me a chance, let's count it.
Yeah.
And he let us audition and he liked what he heard. So we actually qualified to be on the show. So we went on Party Time and we didn't place or anything, but we got a good review from the neighborhood. So the
Yeah.
neighborhood, when you go on TV long time, it's like, here's a celebrity. So we went on TV and we performed and everybody was supportive. And after that, we started to write our own song because that first song was my cousin. He did everything now. He wrote the lyrics. So with that response, we started to get addicted to the art form. So we started to write our own lyrics and we entered the following year the same show, talent show, which is Party Time, right? And on that occasion, we end up placing. However, my cousin who introduced us to the art form, he ended up falling sick and he passed away. Now,
Oh,
before he died, I went to see him in the hospital. He got an aneurysm in his brain.
Mm.
When I went to see him in the hospital, he spoke and he told me, well, he had to continue with the music, right? Now, I wasn't studying music at that time, I was studying him, but that stuck with me. So when he passed, I was like, yeah, we really had to continue with this music. And we went to the same talent show for the third time. And this time we keep qualifying to go to the next stage and the next stage, and we got into the finals that year, right? And well, in getting into the finals, you meet other artists, and they were really into us, the style, because at that time, not plenty people were into rap. So persons were more into dub, dub and R&B and thing, right? So we were kind of unique. So people used to always invite us to perform in different places and whatnot. So that is how it started.
Yeah.
And eventually, from knowing artists to artists, they would invite you to studios, and well, we started to record stuff on demos and stuff. And I was intrigued by the whole process of producing. So I kind of started soak up everything with the producer at, that we used to go by, and he used to kind of teach me little things now and then. So with being an artist, I started getting to the production side.
Before we go further into the production side, how old were you all when you all went on to Party Time?
Well, we were teenagers. We were still going to school. We had a little fame after the being on TV because that was a big thing. So in
Right.
school, people would recognize, hey, he was on Party Time. Yeah, well, it was real bad. Different things like that. So that kind of let us know that we have our little skills now.
How popular was rap music at that point in time? And were there other rappers more experienced than you all? Or around your age, were there other rap acts in Party Time at that time? Who were the rappers that were like pioneering the craft locally that you
Okay.
all would probably have known of or met subsequently?
Right. Being a person who into hip hop was rare in Trinidad at that time, but we used to have meet up with different pockets of people with similar interests and going different places to perform. You would meet other people who into rap. And in talking with them, we discovered that it had like this underground party that used to be thrown every year in the tunnel in Shogunas. And it was hosted by a group called Dredrin, right? Now, Dredrin was like about four persons in that group, and they used to throw these hip hop parties. So when we heard of this, we we end up inquiring about. So when this part, it used to be a real underground thing. If you know, you know. If you don't know, you don't know. So we end up linking with the person who threw the party, and they invited us to the party, and we went. And then when we went there, it was like seeing a whole society of people that you didn't know exist. So it had different rap. It had these guys, spot rushers, used to perform there. Dredging, it had a crew called Nuts Clan. It had Soul Crooks, and a whole set of artists that we didn't know about before. And
Mm.
that created that network for us. So we end up linking with some other rappers that we would have met. And we formed this. Well, back in those days, Wu Tang came out, and we wanted to be like a Wu Tang. So it had like 15 men in this group. So we used to have meetings on Sundays, and everybody used to bring their rhyme book, and we used to be spitting rhymes all night, you know. And yeah, it was just fun. I mean, in the back of your mind, you're thinking, hey, I could be a big rap star or whatever, but it was just, like a therapy and fun to do. So to answer the question, it had this group called Dredrin, who really pioneered that throwing hip hop parties, and everybody used to come. They were like the godfathers.
Mhm.
So there's a song that I kind of dedicate to them.
Mhm.
I have it on YouTube. It's called the Dredging Era. And that will give you a kind of insight of how a dredging party used to be. So it from the perspective of a person attending the party,
Party.
what goes on,
When you started writing your own verses,
Mhm.
what was your inspiration at that time? You'd have been a teenager. What in
Yeah.
the world around you inspired your writing or found its way into your writing?
Earlier, I spoke about a group called Das Effects with a unique style, right? There was also a group called Fushnikens. I don't know if you ever heard of them. This a song you might know from them is "Ring the Alarm," or the other song featuring Shaquille O'Neal. And interestingly enough, one of the group members was a Trinidadian,
Okay.
right? So he had a real unique style. And when my cousin, my older brother, and myself thought of ourselves, we thought of ourselves like that group. So my cousin used to really rap really, really fast. And I was like in second place with the fastness. So that was like the challenge. Who could rap the fastest and who could put all these syllables into a bar,
Mm.
So it was just that skill and that technique was our driving force to create. Now, in terms of topics, that came later on. So our earlier raps would have been more about style and braggadocious kind of stuff. When you start to put messages into the song and talk about particular topics, that is when your style kind of started to develop.
It would seem to me that you tried to perfect the technical aspects of the craft, and then you started infusing the world around you in the form of lyrics into the craft. So then your style evolves as that
Mhm,
happens. If we had to listen to your music today, what would we
mhm.
be hearing about in terms of themes and topics the most?
Well, I think my music is based on inspiration. So there is not in a box. So sometimes it depending on the mood, right? What the music kind of calls for. So there are different ways to go about writing a song. You could just pick up a pen and paper and start to write whatever on your mind, or you could throw on a beat, and whatever the beat tells you, that is how you go about writing the song. So it have some songs I start writing one particular way, and then I go in a whole different direction based on the vibe. So you get ideas as you go along, and sometimes you just want to stick to one topic. So let's say you're talking about, like, there's a song I have on release. It's called The Twin Island State, right? Now I
Mhm.
did a whole documentary, and that was like the theme song. So that is the only time somebody would get to hear that song because it's not released as yet.
Yeah.
Now that song just talks about things Trinidad and Tobago, right? So it talk about the food, it talk about the lime, it talk about Tobago and different aspects of the culture.
Mhm.
So writing is a therapeutic thing. So
Mhm.
sometimes you might put your life into it, or sometimes it just might be fiction, like talking about if a alien land on Earth, what would happen, or different things.
Yeah.
There's a song that we have. Well, when I say we, there's a group that I was involved with called KVA, or Chaotic Verbal Automatics. We wrote a song called Artificial Intelligence. And in this day and age, that is so relevant. And we wrote that like years ago,
Yeah.
so every aspect of life could make it into the music. So it's not like this is what we stand for and this is all we talk about.
Mhm.
Now we have standards in terms of lyrics, right? Because
Mhm.
what we try to do is not sound corny. There's ways to stay away from the corniness,
Right.
so you try to be creative
Yeah.
because you don't want a song, as we say, ABC. So
Mm-hmm.
instead of saying a jump, you could substitute the word jump with some kind of technical term. So, to make it more interesting. So,
It,
like the listener will be listening and say, I never heard that word before. What I mean, I went to do the research. Oh, I now understand what this guy talk. So and sometimes the simpler it is, the better too. So it depends on the vibe and the however you decide to put across what you want
mm.
to convey.
You've established standards for your craft here in Trinidad. What's
Mhm.
the main difference between rap culture abroad in the States and rap culture here in Trinidad?
Well, I think rap is all over the world, right? So in Trinidad, I think the main essence of it is that wherever you from, your culture will kind of shine through. That is if you let it, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
some artists like to mimic Americans, right?
Mm-hmm.
In my younger days, probably that is what I wanted to. I just mimicking and trying to song like some artists that I just listen to. But getting older with the craft, you realize when you put your identity into it, it makes a more of an impact. So the culture, when it comes to the culture, is the same, but because of where we live, we would have different things to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So if you live in Trinidad and you're talking about things that only American base,
Mm-hmm.
there's a disconnect. And the Americans could identify with now what are you talking about? But if you talk about things that you going through in Trinidad or you have that Caribbean influence in your music, it would stand out and the Americans would be interested. What going on here? Let me pay attention. So
Yeah.
that is my experience.
Is it like case that local rappers aren't rich and famous?
I wouldn't say that. I
Yeah.
think artists on the whole can speak about anything they want,
Yeah.
but I think the more impactful thing is to just be authentic, right? Now, as I said before, as sometimes I write about alien ships landing wherever,
Mm,
or I could write about anything. I just there are no limits.
yeah.
So I wouldn't tell an artist, well, you can't sing about fame and fortune, when they probably good at doing that. But the kind of rap that I kind of listen to is more of the creative styles that have your mind like, wait now, what just went on there? Let me look. It's like movies, so you wanna listen over to catch something that you didn't catch before. It's like that for me. I can't speak for other artists because they might be influenced by something else.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I like the kind of the creative flows
Mm.
as well as the potent topics that would have your interest now. You know what I mean? So
Does local rap have a space in our local media? And who is advocating for that?
right. So hip hop in Trinidad has went through a lot of phases, right? There
Mhm.
was the Dredgen era, throwing parties, and that group actually got to open for, is it Wyclef? Yeah, Wyclef
Mhm.
John when they came down,
Right.
Fugees, right? At that time, the party scene was a big thing. So it would have like artists scheduled to perform, and there was a movement,
Mm.
right? Fast forward, there was spot rushers was kind of holding the mantle a little bit. So they would have songs on radio, and then, well, this guy from Spot Rushers, Chromatics, he left the group and he started to make more headway into the music industry. So he used to go abroad and perform. It had different persons who would moved to the forefront. It had Nebula 868. Well, Gatorians was part of that as well. There was a guy called Seth Gaines. He's deceased now. He had a lot of songs on the radio as well. And they would have different like little pockets that would get you. We had songs on radio as well. So, but the main thing with promoting hip hop was with the parties. So we had a lot of hip hop parties, and different groups from the hip hop community would throw parties and invite artists they know. So we
Mm,
would go to these parties and perform, and that was the movement. Now, fast forward to now, I think the hip hop community is like more scattered. And with the rise of Trinidad, a lot of hip hop artists
mm,
convert to this Trinidad because Trinidad is a music that, for whatever reason, now I personally I find the music is good. The only thing about it is the violence that they want to bring into reality for
yeah,
me. But
yeah.
the music itself is entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
So I could understand the demand for it,
Mm,
and it has surpassed, I believe, even soca in some ways, because Trinidad at a point in time was more popular than Jamaican dancehall, so, but there are still hip hop artists in Trinidad doing some excellent work. Chromatic is still at it, although he kind of goes into the soca realm. He is kind of versatile, so he does everything. It's that I hear he bring out that chutney.
yeah,
So yeah, I know most people, and every year he brings out the carnival wrap up.
yeah.
So yeah, he's a real hip hop head, and he was one of the pioneers after dredging who would invite. He had a radio show. He would invite artists onto the radio show. We were guests on his show,
Mm-hmm.
so he would give persons opportunities to shine. And he himself would have thrown parties and invite us to perform. So the community right now, it is scattered, but
Mm,
there are still people in contact with each other and say, hey, jump on this track.
yeah.
Presently I have I working on some music, and I send some like a verse, I record a verse, and I made a beat and I sent it to two hip hop artists for
Mm-hmm.
them to drop something. So that is how we do it. So they vice versa. Somebody might just send me a beat and say, hey, how are you on this? So
Okay.
I'll just spit a 16 bars on it for their project.
So that's how the
Yeah,
collaboration works with you guys. You send each
yeah,
other the music and the first set
yeah.
of verses, and you all just add to it.
Right. No, sometimes that's how it happens. Sometimes you might invite somebody to a studio and play some beats or something and decide, well, this is the one we're going with, and you collaborate on the spot. Everybody write the verse and record it and mix it and do everything. Or well, with the technology now, you could just email something to someone, hey, what you think of this?
Yeah.
You wanna jump on it, and they probably have a studio facility to just record, and they'll just record and send it back to you, and you'll be like, hey, yeah, I like that. Or say this instead of that now, and they will just adjust it and whatever. So that is how it is done now. To me, the best way is to actually come to the studio and collaborate, because then you get to kind of feed off each other in terms of ideas and whatnot. But either way, once the music is good, I down for it.
Do you all make breakthroughs with the wider music loving community? Are you all still making breakthroughs on radio, or are you all depending heavily on social media for that assistance?
Some artists put their all into it, so they would make connects with artists outside, maybe in Canada, maybe in the States. but it's climbing a hill.
Mm.
So you won't get an artist in Trinidad getting a feature with Jay-Z, just so.
Yeah.
You have to make a sizable impact for somebody like Jay-Z or a more established artist to recognize. And being from Trinidad, you're kind of starting behind the starting line. So in order to make those inroads, you really have to push. And it have some artists who pushing like that. And it have some artists who have the talent, but unfortunately, balancing life and music, this be kind of tough. Now, I talking that and I kind of talking about myself.
Yeah. I want to ask you
Mhm.
about what you just said. Starting
Right.
behind the starting line here in
Yeah.
Trinidad. What does that mean to you?
Right. So, hip hop, ever since we were teenagers doing hip hop, you always hear, why you don't do a soca, boy? Why you don't do this? Why you like hip hop? So is already, I wouldn't say frowned upon, but persons like to direct you in the direction of what is known or what is the norm. So we
Mm-hmm.
kind of dare to be different. We
Mm-hmm.
like what we like, and that is it. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
and when I say behind the starting line,
Mm-hmm.
meaning we have all these obstacles to overcome and then break the market in the
Mm-hmm.
state where it's already saturated with everybody want to rhyme. So you have to really be different. And that is why I highlighted making music that you could kind of identify your culture in,
Yeah.
because that would, to me, make an impact. And I spoke briefly about a documentary that I did, right? And that documentary was based on local hip hop, right? The name of it is The Twin Island State, uh, documentary on Trinidad and Tobago hip hop. In that documentary, I interviewed artists from the hip hop community. I interviewed radio DJs. I interviewed producers, and everybody gave their perspective on what they think hip hop means to Trinidad and what hip hop artists should do. And there was this big debate about the Trinidad accent, because some artists use American accent to do their flows, and some use the local accent. So there's a debate which one is correct and what you should do. But my view of that is you can do what you want. It's how you feel comfortable getting your message out there. However, so if
True.
you decide you want to sing in Spanish, you can do that.
Yeah.
So I don't think any limitation should be put on artists to make their art.
I think producers might think, well, we will break into an American or a North American market or a European market if
Mhm.
we sound like them, but
Yeah.
that means that you lose your authenticity. You don't hear the Bollywood actors and actresses
Hmm.
speaking proper English. There is that
Right.
Indian accent attached to it. You
Right.
don't hear the K-pop stars
Right.
trying to sound like they're singing English or anything. Yeah, they've been peppered here
Mhm.
and there, but
Right.
it's 95% Korean. So why
Right.
should we sacrifice our own vernacular
Hmm.
to break out? And if they should accept us for who we are, they should accept the music for what it is.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. However, an artist like Rihanna, for example,
Hmm.
she is out there and she's doing American pop R&B kind of music, right? Now, she doesn't use the Bajan accent really, but you hear little hints of it when she speaks and when she performs, right? So that gave her an edge to me and a uniqueness, right?
Hmm.
But generally, if you don't know Rihanna background, you'll think, well, she's an American artist.
Yeah.
I say that to really highlight that anything could break through. You just have to first have the talent and also have the connect or the push from maybe a label or You just had to have that drive, and your music has to be unique for persons to take notice. But there's all about marketing as well, because you would know that it have some songs out here that really not that good, but the marketing behind it,
Yeah.
after you hear it over and over and over, hey, this song is kind of good. So that is part of it as well. Once you have marketing dollars behind you, now it
Mm-hmm.
have songs that break through despite limited marketing, and those are like diamonds in the rubble. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you're fortunate to be one of those artists who get a hit like that, well, God bless you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely. Let's go into production. You
right.
correct me if I'm wrong, but you have your own studio where you do your production for
Yeah,
your music.
correct. When I got into production, I kind of learned under a producer by the name of Sean Morales. He used to produce in Gypsy Studio. Gypsy, the Calypsonian, not the politician. Same person, but when Gypsy used to sing and stuff, right? So he was the producer there. So I used to go there a lot, and he used to show me how to hook up the studio. And I started to work. I was young. I started to work at High Low at the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was in the meet room. So I used to ask for time off just to go and learn how to do studio work. So I went there, and he used to, it wasn't just me, it was me and a couple other guys who were interested. And we used to record, we used to hook up equipment and all these things. And there was a neighbor who heard one of our demos, and he had a partner who had a studio. So when I went to that studio to record, that producer, he was supposed to record us, but I had already known how to use Pro Tools, and he was like, but I don't know how to do nothing. You can do everything. So that begun my journey into producing. Now at that time I didn't have any equipment or anything. So I just used to go in the studio and assist, and I record this man for me, and I'll put in some effects, different things like that. And it just started to develop from there. But the next step was for me to get my own equipment. So I saw a ad in the newspaper about production and learning how to do production. So when I went to that course, I went and signed up. This guy who is one of the biggest mastering engineers in Trinidad, presently master for Marshall, do all kind of music, right? His name is Martin Raymond Mice. He was teaching the class,
Mm-hmm.
and the class was full. And there were times where he would say, well, we have these vocals, we have this track here. I want all to come up one at a time and mix. So all that was the process of me learning. And then I went to him after and said, well, you really need to start a studio. And he gave me step by step what to get. And I just saved money and started buy equipment and put it down and buy computer and all these things. And I started produce my group, which was the group that I spoke about, Chaotic Verbal Automatics.
Right.
And we produced a CD, like a 5-track CD. And we used to go to those hip hop shows and give them out, and people used to say, hey, that song real bad. And we used to get a little forward like that. And from that, we get music onto the radio and stuff. And well, that is hip hop. But then other genres used to come to record. At that time, I had built up a little room in the back of my mother's house,
Mm-hmm.
and I buy all the acoustic foam and I put it on the walls. Now my mother was supportive, my father was supportive. Yeah, do your studio thing. And they eventually benefited from it because they have a parent group, and seeing me doing all these recordings, they would say, yeah, we want to record our demo.
Yeah.
And they end up bringing the whole parent group. into the little space. We recorded each instrument one by one, and we created a parang CD,
Yeah.
and that up to today, that those songs is play on radio.
What was the name of their group?
La Familia de Carmona y Amigos. So yeah, so they active still. And
Okay.
this morning I was having a discussion with my sister who was telling me that there are some new songs to record. So it's not just limited to hip hop. I
Mm-hmm.
also produce some soca for some unknown artists.
Mm-hmm.
They get little airplay and stuff, but I never produce for Marshall or or Bungie. But
Not
that
as
is
yet.
something, not as yet, right?
Not as yet. Yeah.
But I have worked with other producers who were into hip hop and now into the genre of soca, and they're making a lot of waves. There's the guy who produced the song with Marshall Party. We can,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, Mevon Sudin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is my boy. He was in the documentary about hip hop. He was one of the people I interviewed, and I am so proud to see him now producing for Marshall and doing big things.
Yes.
He was always talented. He was always one of the persons who I would kind of, when I see him doing stuff, I'll be very proud because I mean he's very talented, and he actually produced one of the songs on one of my earlier releases. So yeah, it good to see persons just spread their wings and be successful.
Is studio time expensive for up and coming artists?
If you have a big studio, I would expect that you would charge up in order to maintain it, right? But in terms of studio time now, I think studio time it is expensive, but a lot of people could go and buy studio equipment now and try their hand. But if you want to get a good product,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the old saying, good thing not cheap,
Yeah.
cheap thing not good,
Yeah.
right? So if you want to get a good product, I would recommend that you go to somebody who actually have experience and pay your money. You could do it yourself and you could learn and stuff because at a point in time I didn't know certain things, and is a evolving art form or career. So there's always new technology coming out and you have to be abreast with everything. You have to know what is the new plugins, what is new things you could add to your production to make it sound crisper.
Right.
So there's always a learning curve, with the new technology. So you gotta keep yourself informed and ensure that you're on top of your game. But it just takes your ear is your biggest tool in production to me, because your ear would dictate how they mix songs, and once you like it, everybody else come after. People could listen and say, "Hey, I find this and I find that." But you have to be satisfied with what you're putting out there.
What was the most awkward, other than my reaction when I found out, what was the most awkward reaction you've ever experienced when people found out, hey, Kurt is a rapper. Kurt's stage name is Krazy Kurtastrophy. Like you don't your personality in real doesn't come across as crazy or catastrophic. You're a really laid back kind of guy in real life. Like what
Yeah.
is their reaction to that?
Well, most people are shocked that I am a hip hop artist
Yes.
and that are into music like that. And just as you say, in normal everyday life, I'm really laid back,
Hmm.
but the hip hop side of me is a little more, chaotic, so, and yeah, so it is a shocker for persons. And to answer the question, was the most awkward thing to happen?
Yeah.
There was this time, one of my bosses or whatever you wanna call them, right?
Right.
So somebody who in charge of me, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They found out by because I don't go and tell everybody, hey,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
if you know, you know, right? I think it's important to separate that part of my life from the other professional side.
Yes. Yes.
It's important to do that because, and going back to the awkwardness, right?
Yeah.
So this person would have come across maybe a music video or something, and they realized, and they were in shock, just like everybody does be, right? Because I talk slow and I rapping fast, this kind of way. So they came up to me and said, "Hey, you real bad," and
Yeah.
wanted me to rap on the spot in while I
Yeah.
in an environment that not conducive to that. And I was like, what I just kind of brush it off and do sometimes is like, you sure I me? you know? Or but if I meet persons in a hip hop environment, it's a different vibe, right? That is where
Definitely.
it's appropriate to be on that. So
Yeah.
sometimes when people saying, yeah, you just rap and making a scene out of it, I just kind of stay away from that because remember, there's something that is like a therapy for me
Yeah.
doing hip
Yeah.
hop, right?
Yeah.
And for somebody to be kind of, you know, treating it like, I it
A
I don't
jokey
want to,
thing.
yeah, I don't
Yeah.
want to react in the wrong way
Yeah.
to let them know now. So it's like something I just hold dear to me.
Mm.
And as I give you the history with my cousin who passed away and thing, right? It's something that in me. So I don't want people mama guy with that kind of vibes now.
Yeah.
If you genuinely like the music and you want to say, hey, I find that song you sing there, whatever. Whatever your opinion. You could like it, not like it. But the papi show thing, I'm not
Yes.
really on that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
When we found your video, because it was a bunch of us in the office, we were we were genuinely, like you said, it's shocking because here's Kirt Carmona in real life and here's Krazy Kurtastrophy on the internet. And we just had to find out. We just had to find out that's you, right? Like, and you did brush it off. It's like, you sure that is me? And you hit us that line, and we're like, no, that's you, you know? And I always remember that moment. And I said, you know what? I need to bring him on because I want to learn more about how he got into it and how the music has evolved for him. Which brings me to my almost final questions. What's the verse that people come up and they say, "Hey, boy, that one was, the best thing I've ever heard. That one was on fire."
Now there are many times that happen, right? But
Yeah.
I could recall performing at one of those hip hop shows, right? And there was a verse that was really, really fast. It was a fast verse. And what I did, I kind of stopped the music and
Mm,
I started off slow.
mm-hmm.
And I want because what happens sometimes people feel I just talking gibberish now. Blah, 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 blah. So I
Yeah.
slow it down for people to hear what I'm saying. And then I just start to gradually go fast, 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 fast. And then you just hear the crowd just start to go, ah! You start to ball because they, I kind of give them a sneak peek into how the lyrics structured. Sometimes you just perform and the lyrics going past so fast. They just know, well, he's spitting real fast. But if you say what he said, they
Yeah.
will know because there's so much words. So I think it had a lot of moments like that with the fast raps. But then that in itself, I doesn't like to be boxed into just that because it has certain artists that I collaborate with and they were like, spit something fast, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, you can't dictate what I gonna do. You know, I might
True.
have some sprinklings of fasting in it, but that is not all what others do now. Yeah, but to me, the lyrics that is be most impactful is the ones that you could relate to,
Hmm.
right? So, uh, yeah, I guess
Yeah.
that is the answer.
Yeah. No, I mean, people really try to judge you by other standards, but you've set your own for yourself and for your music, and that's what you deliver on. So it's good that you're able to manage those expectations, those sort of reactions that people have, right?
Mhm.
As we close off, because this has been a really, I mean, there's so much more we can get into. So I definitely would want to have you back and maybe bring back somebody from your crew to so we could have another fuller conversation. But to somebody out there who's listening who likes the art form and they
Mhm.
want to get started, what word of advice would you leave with them?
I would say just do you because you know what you like, right? So, and just make sure when you're writing lyrics or if
Mhm,
you're recording anything,
mhm.
at the end of the day, you have to like it. Don't just do something for doing its sake or people tell you to do it so. You have to know exactly what you want your voice to sound like, what you want your message to be, and just stick to that.
Yeah.
Speaking from experience, because in the earlies, I would have written some songs that I wasn't too proud of, and that was based on persons kind of advising. And as I said before, why you don't sing a soca? Why you don't mix the thing with the soca? Why you don't all kind of thing? And I could recall going to our studio. Now I didn't pay any money to record. It was a producer who would he liked the style and he like, yeah, come and he threw on some beats. But he was kind of guiding how to say certain things. And at the end of it, it was good, but I wasn't really feeling it that much.
Yeah.
So I wasn't able to sell it and be like, yeah, I didn't believe in it.
Yeah.
So when you're doing music, you have to believe in it and do it for yourself first and then everybody else after, you know?
Excellent
Yeah.
bit of advice there. So, Kurt,
Yeah.
before we end, I usually play a game with all my guests on the podcast just to end on a lively, upbeat note. And no, I'm not going to ask you to freestyle. Like
Right, thank you.
that's been done and dead, right? We've had too many
Mhm,
radio interviews with artists being asked, "Hey, throw a line there
mhm,
for me." What I want to ask you though is,
mhm.
you're going to tell me whether these lines um, apply to you, right? And you're going to be honest and truthful because you
Mhm.
said that for you, rap is healing, rap is therapeutic. So
Yeah.
I'm just gonna give you a line and you're gonna tell me if it's something that is true for all
Mhm.
rappers that you may be aware of, or if it's something that's very personal to you, right? So here we go. So the
Right.
first one would be your best songs come from pain.
No, I don't think so. Best
Okay.
songs, nah, best songs come from vibes.
I like
Yeah.
that. I like that.
Yeah.
Not every song you record deserves to be released.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there
But
are some songs that uh would never release. Not that they're not good enough. It just said, yeah, you're just not feeling it as much as
mm,
what it had to fit into a mold. Say you're
yeah.
releasing something, it had reached the level of release as yet. Not to say it would never be released, but there maybe some more work has to be done on it.
Or maybe the time isn't right for it.
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is
Yeah.
another.
Rappers hear beats differently from everyone else.
Yeah, I would say so because there are different pockets to go into the beat. A dancehall artist would ride a beat different from a hip hop artist,
Yeah.
right? And the whole technique in it is to find your own flow or style on a beat, right?
Yeah.
I have witnessed people ride a beat totally different than how somebody would normally write up, and that is bring the uniqueness to it as well. So creating a flow is something that I very intrigued by.
Yeah.
So when people are able to do that, kudos to them. As give them the props, you know.
Nice. And you need thick skin to survive in the music industry. Does that apply to you or to everybody?
Yeah, you do because there are a lot of critics out there, and especially with the internet, everybody has a voice. So sometimes you might release a song and people not really feeling it, or you have to be able to take critique. So not everything you release would be accepted the same way. And some people might just want you to release a particular type of music, but you have to know what you want to do and what
Mm-hmm.
works and what doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
But critics are always out there. So yeah, you have to have a thick skin.
Yeah.
And that being able to take criticism would help you improve as well.
Here's a final one. Everyone thinks they can rap until they try.
Haha. Yeah, I mean, yeah. When you make it look easy,
Yeah.
everybody think they could do it. I can recall going to a show and performing, and as I said, when I started rap fast, right? I could remember distinctly coming off a stage and people approaching me and like they trying to rap fast too. So it you know what remind me of the karate movie syndrome where you go and watch a karate movie and then you come out and everybody can fight karate. Yeah, that happened already.
Yeah.
But it was good because it showed me that people were paying attention
Right.
and I think they were trying to impress me so that I could put them on a track or something. So
Oh.
it was cool. It was not a bad feeling. It kind of inspiring. You know, it make me feel like right, I'm doing something right.
So guys, Krazy Kurtastrophy is on YouTube. He's on Instagram. He's on Threads. So you could go check him out, follow his music, like, share, subscribe, comment, leave some feedback. He appreciates those sort of things. I want to thank him again for coming on the podcast. It was like a trip down memory lane for him, but for me, it was like history unraveling about rap music, which isn't something I was too very familiar with until tonight. So it was really insightful. And I think I have so many more questions that would require another episode. So we could do this again in the future, Kurt, when we both have time to do it. But again, thank you.
Definitely.
Yes, thank you for being here. So, guys, that's it for tonight's episode of Well, That's Interesting. Join me again for another episode coming to you very soon. Hey guys, if something in this conversation made you pause, question, or see things a little differently, then I think it did its job. Thanks for spending this time with us on Well, That's Interesting. New conversations drop regularly, so follow the podcast wherever you're listening and come back again when curiosity pulls you in. Until next time, take care, stay frosty. Bye.